The last question that the Sheikh asked me was the difference between the Hadith Shaath and Ziyadah Thiqah. A Shaath Hadith and a Hadith that is Ziyadah Thiqah. A Shaath Hadith, in the science of Hadith, an authentic narration must meet 5 conditions. The Sa'd is Senate, the chain must be connected, as we mentioned earlier, a Muslim, the chain connected from the first narrator all the way to the end of the chain of narration, in this case, to the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. It must also be by the narration of the truthful and precise. So those are 2 conditions, truthful, sadiq, and dhabit. So they must be truthful, upright, and they must be precise. The precision is of 2 types, dabt al-sadr or dabt al-kitab, memorizing by heart and preserving your knowledge well in books. So again, connect the chain of narration by the narration of a trustworthy, upright, precise narrator. It cannot have any shudud, any contradiction. So that's shadh. Shadh means it's contradictory to that which is stronger than it or more in number than it. So for example, if a trustworthy narrator has to be trustworthy. If a trustworthy narrator narrates something that contradicts other narrators that are stronger than him or more in number than him in strength, then he is considered that instant shadh. The narration is shadh, therefore it is rejected. However, Ziyadah al-Thiqah is now when a trustworthy narrator doesn't contradict the other narrators, he simply adds something to it that they didn't hear. So for example, there may have been several different sittings, for example, and maybe that particular student heard something in one sitting that the other student didn't hear. And he just adds what he heard or what he saw from the teacher that the others didn't hear or see. He's trustworthy, so therefore we take that additional wording from him because he's only adding something that the others didn't relate or narrate. However, if we know that they were all in the same sittings, for example, all of them were together in the same sittings, and one particular narrator narrates something that the others didn't narrate, and they're stronger than him, in that instance it is shadh. He has contradicted them. And so in that instance, that's the difference between shadh and between Ziyadah. That was the last question he asked in the hospital that day. The example of a shadh hadith, I'll start a little trouble before I leave. The example of a shadh, hey, you knew I was getting ready to do it. You know I was getting ready to do it. So, the moving of the finger in the tashahhud, let's do it. So the narration, the Prophet ﷺ, that he pointed with his index finger, and in the wording it says, وَيُحَرِّكُهَا, and he moved it. However, that addition was only reported by Ziyadah ibn Qudama, one narrator. He contradicts 13 other narrators. And Ziyadah ibn Qudama, by the way, is Thiqatun Thabt. He's from the highest levels of precision and memorization. We're not going to play around with Ziyadah ibn Qudama. But look what he contradicts. Sufyan ibn Uyayna, Amir al-Mu'mineen fil Hadith. Sufyan al-Thawri, Amir al-Mu'mineen fil Hadith. Shu'bah al-Hajjaj, Amir al-Mu'mineen fil Hadith. Abdullah al-Mubarak, I can go on. So the point here, Ikhwan, is that out of all of those narrators, all of them narrate that the Prophet ﷺ pointed with his fingers, only Ziyadah mentions that he moved it. So he contradicts those who are more than him in number and those who are stronger than him in number. He alone, right? Now, Sheikh Mukbil said, if that's not shadh, then shadh doesn't exist. If that narration is not Shaath, that wording is not Shaath, then what's a Shaath narration? It fits every criteria of a Shaath narration. Shaykh al-Albani, in Tamam al-Minna, he actually, in this issue, he praises a book that was written by one of the students in Damaj, Ahmed Sa'id, Shaykh Muqbil, actually sought from him to compile this work. Ahmed Sa'id, strong in Ba'ath and research. He was actually my research teacher there in Damaj. He compiled a book on the moving of the finger, in which he gathered together all of the chains, many of the chains of narration, and sifts through them and brings the kalam of the ulama. And as Shaykh Muqbil mentions in the introduction, again, if this is not a Shaath hadith, then the Shaath hadith doesn't exist. So Shaykh al-Albani actually mentions this book in Tamam al-Minna, and he praises it. He says, indeed, it's a book, you can see the author was diligent in gathering the chains of narration and sifting through them with a work that we hope that Allah will reward him from walakin. However, and of course Sheikh Nasser goes on and gives his position. And he says it's from Ziyadah Thiqah. Basically, Sheikh Nasser argues it's from Ziyadah Thiqah. The problem here again, Ikhwan, is that we, as Shaykh Muqbil and the others have mentioned, that we do not have anything to show that he heard something outside of those circles, of those foremost students of their teacher, and therefore in this instance one would have to rule that with being Shaath as opposed to Ziyadah Thiqah. And Allah knows best. Like, but if you